Hello, my name is Claudette Gadsden and I am the Conversation Coach. I want to thank you for saying yes. Yes to you and yes to the influence advantage. So today we're going to talk about 3 strategies to attain your goal. Now, the number one strategy is how your inner critic impacts every experience. Every experience. So your inner critic can be constructive or destructive. And so, of course, if it's constructive, then it points out your areas of opportunity. Some people say weaknesses. I say it's always an opportunity to grow. And so it's an area that you can grow in. So I refer to those as areas of opportunity. And so when you take advantage of those areas of opportunity, then you empower yourself to do whatever it is that you're choosing to do. And the constructive criticism, it points out your flaws or your missteps, and it does it in, for want of a better term, in such a loving way that you grow from it. And then you have the destructive critic. And the destructive critic, what I found is that's the one that we listen to the most. That's the one that we hear the most. Maybe because that's the one that speaks the loudest. But that inner critic is always pointing out, how dare you? Who do you think you are? Like, why would someone buy this from you? Or why would they pay for this? Or who do you think, is going to be interested in your product or interested in you? And then you shy away from it thinking, oh my God, like no one's going to buy it. I'm going to invest all of this time and this energy into this product and making it work, only to find that you're so caught up in what everyone else is saying and what that inner critic is saying to you that you miss amazing opportunities that just show up, and the inner critics, they impact every area of our lives. Your professional life, your personal life, it's all impacted by that little voice inside your head. And so, what do you do, or what can you do to control that inner critic? And the reality is, the inner critic is simply your thoughts. And so, what thoughts are you having about the things that you want to accomplish in your life? What thoughts are you having about the goals that you are trying to attain? Because I can say for sure that if your thoughts are, oh, this is not going to work, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this, then that's what's going to happen. It's not going to work and you're not going to be able to do it. And so I want you to be mindful of that. And let's talk about that inner critic when it comes to conversations. Again, that inner critic is simply your thoughts. And so when you are preparing to have conversations, because I am the conversation coach, so when you are preparing to have conversations, what are you saying to yourself before you have that conversation? That you might call your inner critic. It's actually your thoughts. What thoughts are you having? So if it's a conversation that you really don't want to have, that you're dreading having this conversation, then what thoughts are you having? Here's one that I just said. You're dreading having this conversation. And so when you're thinking that you're dreading having this conversation, then your whole energy shifts around this conversation, because now your emotions have become involved. And when your emotion become involved and you act from that place of emotions, it generally doesn't turn out the way that you want it to. And so, what are you saying to yourself? And here's a couple of examples. You are doing a job, going for a job interview, going to meet a client, and you say something like, oh, this client is not going to like this product, or my presentation is not what I think it should be or what I want it to be, and this is not going to work. And so when you get there, then challenges arise. And when we are unaware, then we start to ask ourselves questions about, why isn't this working out? Or why does this happen to me? Without even considering that these things are happening because of your thoughts. You are, for want of a better term, you are willing them to be. And I'll give you a simple example that I use. And it is that you leave home, I'll use work for an example. You're heading out to work and you leave home a little later than you generally do or that you plan to. And you say to yourself, the whole time you're preparing to leave, the whole drive there, you're saying to yourself, I'm going to be late, I'm going to be late, I'm going to be late. I promise you're going to be late. Because you keep saying that, you keep repeating that I'm going to be late. So yes, you are going to be late, So try switching that around to say, I'm going to get there right on time. I am leaving a little later than I intended to, but I'm going to get there right on time. And everything will fall into place. It's all about your thoughts. Your thoughts create your life. Your thoughts create your influence. Your thoughts. Because when you are able to influence yourself through your thoughts, then you are able to influence the world around you. So that was strategy number 1, how your inner critic impacts every area of your life. And we're going to move on to strategy number 2. And that is why emotional intelligence matters. And as I said earlier, when you start thinking whatever thoughts you're thinking, particularly negative thoughts, and your emotions become involved, then you're driven by your emotions. And so when you are aware or you have a high emotional intelligence, then you're able to read that as you're going in. So if I am going into a conversation and I am feeling that I'm being driven by emotions, I can stop and take a deep breath. I can choose not to allow my emotions to carry me into a place where I don't want to be. But again, we have to be aware of this, and we have to be conscious of our emotions. And, when you are emotionally intelligent or more emotionally aware, it also helps with the people in your life, be they personal or professional, because you'll be able to see if someone, as an example, you're having a conversation with someone and they are getting upset. If you are aware or you are more emotionally intelligent, then you'll be able to recognize the change in their emotions. You'll be able to recognize the change in their movement even. And then that will help you to know if you need to take a step back or if you need to keep going forward. If it's a proposal on the business side and you are giving them the spiel on the business, if you see that they're shutting down, then maybe you want to change your tactics. But then if you see that they're excited about what you want to say, then you want to delve a little deeper into that. But if you don't have the emotional intelligence to be aware not only of your own feelings, but of the feelings and emotions of the people that are around you, then it kind of takes away from the story. So as an example, I was having a conversation with someone earlier and I was trying to get some documents to them and we ran into a glitch and they needed it by Tuesday. So they said, okay, well, I'll give you until Tuesday morning to get with me. And I said, no, that's not going to work. Let's do it tomorrow, which, so that you're not rushed and I'm not rushed on Tuesday. And she was so grateful for that because she says, on Tuesday, I don't want to be frazzled before I, go to make this presentation. And just being emotionally aware of where she was and how she was feeling about this whole project that we're working on helped me to be a little more helpful to her. And so if I was only thinking about myself or I was emotionally unaware, then I wouldn't think about her and how she's feeling and what else she has to deal with. It would just be about me. And that doesn't help me, and it doesn't help the people that I deal with. So emotional intelligence definitely matter. And so you want to, be aware of that. And so we've covered number one, how your inner critic impacts every experience. We've covered strategy number two, which is why emotional intelligence matters. And now we're going to go to strategy three, which is how to create clear and concise conversations. So to start with, you're going to go back to number one, which is how your inner critic impacts every experience. That includes every conversation. Because again, your inner critic is simply your thoughts. And so if you're not having good thoughts about this conversation, or you're saying to yourself that this is not going to work, or, I don't know how I'm going to say this to them, then your inner critic is impacting a clear and concise conversation, because you're all muddled in your head. And so if you're all muddled in your head, how can you be clear in your mouth? You can't. So you have to be clear in your head, and you have to, ensure that your thoughts or your inner critic is for your good. And so know that what you are doing, or the goals that you are trying to attain, are for your highest good. And so then when you are able to shift your thoughts so that they mirror that, then it makes it easier for you to create these clear and concise conversations, because the reality is these clear and concise conversations start in your head first. They start with your own thoughts. And so if I am able to have a clear and concise conversation with myself, then it makes it so much easier for me to have a conversation with someone else. And sometimes I have to tell you, it requires me writing it down. What does that conversation look like? What am I going to say to them? What are they going to say to me? What is it that they want out of this conversation, out of this exchange? What do I want out of the exchange? Because in relationships, it's not one. There's no I in team. And relationship is a team. And so I have to think that, if I want something out of the experience, the person that I'm dealing with wants something as well. And that something could simply be a clear and concise conversation. It could simply be me telling them what it is that I want. Because here's what I know. If I am not able to say what I want, then I get to have what people want. Whatever someone wants me to have is what I'll get. Because I don't know how to say for myself, this is what I want. Not this is what I don't want. Because telling people what you don't want doesn't tell them what you do want. Because there's a lot in between what you don't want and what you do want. So let's focus on what you do want. And when you focus on what you do want, then you're able to articulate clearly and concisely whatever message it is that you're trying to deliver. And so again, these conversations start in your head. Every external conversation starts with inner dialogue. So what are you saying to yourself? So now we have covered how your inner critic impacts every experience, why emotional intelligence matters, and how to create clear and concise conversations. And when I started on number 3 about the clear and concise conversations, I said, it starts with your inner critic. It starts with the thoughts that you're having about this conversation that you need to have. But I forgot to mention your emotional intelligence also plays a role in that. Because when you're thinking about this, what are your emotions saying? What are you feeling as you prepare to have this conversation? Because it's important that you get your feelings in check. Because you don't want your experiences or your conversations to be driven by your emotions. Because your emotions change. And so if you are able to put your feelings in check, if you are able to stop for a moment and say, oh, I am feeling angry. Why am I feeling angry? Let me just sit with this for a moment before I act, so that I don't allow my emotions to drive this experience. And so when you are able to put these three strategies in place, then you have the influence advantage. When you're able to master these strategies, then you actually increase the influence in your life, and in turn, increase the influence in the world. And how do you do that? Because now when you're out in the world, your conversations are more clear, they're more concise, and people know exactly what it is that you're talking about and what it is that you want. And that's how we get our goals. Because if we're not clear on what our goals are, then how do we reach them? If you get in the car and you say, I'm going, but you don't know where this is, where do you go? You can't put your car on automatic pilot and say, just take me. You have to have some direction. You have to have a strategy. And I just gave you 3. And so again, my name is Claudette Gadsden. I am the conversation coach. I hope you have enjoyed this talk, and thank you so much for saying yes to you. Take care.